Hello again, boys, girls, Z's, lady boys, and everybody else. So it's another beautiful day here in Maryland. It's raining a little bit, kind of getting dripped on. It's kind of funny, like when you live in a place and you keep talking about wanting to leave, but then like intermixed with all the times you say you want to leave, you're like, well, but before we leave, we should really put a gazebo somewhere. It'd be really nice to be able to sit out when it's raining. At least to be able to do videos while it's raining. Oh well. It is nice. It has been a very rainy day today. And so at least the good thing with that is it is good for the allergies, because it really takes all of the allergens out of the air. So I'm very, very happy there. I figure I'll just sit here. You can hear the patter of rain in the background as I talk to you folks today about benefit of the doubt, actually. Benefit of the doubt. And so why this is topical is because the video today for that IX Systems FreeNAS mini NAS server thing went up. That was one of my finer reviews. Even if probably wasn't the best review for the whole IX Systems thing. So I did put it up there. The reason I put it up there is, and this is the thing. So basically, what had happened is, so they had contacted me. So IX Systems are the people that created this NAS operating system called FreeNAS, a network attached storage operating system. So it's an enterprise class open source operating system. And basically how they make money normally is they sell enterprise grade NAS servers. So kind of think about like where YouTube stores all of these videos. That's what those servers, that's the type of thing those servers do, right? And so that's fine, that's great, and I completely understand why people would buy those servers from them. Those servers are very expensive. You can buy service contracts from them. It makes sense all the way around. Basically, the question is do you want to use FreeNAS for your enterprise? And if you do want to use FreeNAS for your enterprise, you can go and buy one of their servers. Makes sense. So they contacted me because they have these the mini and the mini XL server, basically going for the small business market. And they contacted me about reviewing that, and they said, we'll send you a free one that you can keep if you review it. And I was very excited because I like FreeNAS. I really like FreeNAS as an operating system. And again, the enterprise grade servers, they make sense. I mean, again, there's not a lot of science behind that. You put together good hardware, you throw FreeNAS on it, and you configure it. Right, so that makes sense. And so I figured I'd be very, 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 very happy with the NAS server that I received. That was an incorrect assumption. Basically, I received the NAS server and was not overly pleased with what I received and didn't understand a lot of stuff with it. And so one of the problems that I had is there was a lot of stuff that I didn't like about the server, especially at that price point. A lot of things that didn't make sense, especially if I'm doing a review of it. And then one of the issues came along is I went to spec out the NAS server with hard drives in it, and I completely confused the pricing of the hard drives. So I literally thought they were charging like $287 a piece for 1 terabyte drives. At which point, after I was already unamused with the server to begin with, I kind of lost my shit. But then I showed you folks my complaints, and you said, Eli, you're not reading that correctly. It's not $287 for a 1 terabyte hard drive. It's $287 for a 6 terabyte hard drive, which actually makes sense, which is about the right price point. So Eli, you were wrong. And so I sat there, and it was kind of interesting. Because the thing was, when I looked at the hard drive prices, it's not like I looked at it once. It wasn't like I looked at that once before I did the video where I showed you folks that and went batshit. I've actually looked at it quite a few times because I couldn't quite understand what was going on. Because it was like, I have to be reading this wrong. And I read it wrong like 10 times in a row. Like I literally had gone back to the website and gone through the whole configuration thing like 10 times and been dyslexic 10 times. And it was curious. And I think the reason that that I was dyslexic 10 times was the whole idea of this expectations, right? Because the issue is basically when I was expecting when I got this server, that it would be a good piece of equipment. I thought when I got the server, like I say, I like FreeNAS, I understand the enterprise stuff, so I thought when I got this server, it would make a lot of sense. I thought I would look at the server and it would be something that I could easily talk about. Again, everything is situational. You use QNAP for some things using Synology for some things, and Drobo for some things, and FreeNAS or IX systems for some things. But then I pulled it out of the box, and I was completely and utterly unhappy with it. And the reason was, and I think that's one thing people don't understand, is why I was looking at those hard drives and I thought the price was the price, is because all the parts in the NAS that they gave me were completely off-the-shelf parts, and like off-the-shelf parts to the point that you could plug in the model number and bring them up on Newegg. And basically, when you came to all the parts, it was like a motherboard and CPU combo unit, which was like $350. And then it was RAM, that might be $150. And then it was a little SD card for the actual operating system, that would be a few bucks. So you're looking at maybe like $525 for that. And then it was whatever the case cost. And so cases range in price anywhere from $50 to maybe $200. So again, you're looking at it and it's like, well, $725, let's say, cost for them. And then they're selling it for $1,500. And so even conservatively, it's a $500 basically assembly fee. And realistically, it's probably an $800 or $900 assembly fee. And so when I look at it, that was the thing, is when I was looking at those hard drives, I was already looking at the fact that they seem to be overcharging for what they're selling. Again, FreeNAS server is an open source server, and so basically they're charging $800 or $900, most likely $500 at the very least, to assemble a rather run-of-the-mill system, right? And so there was that expectation that something was already wrong. And so when I went to actually take a look at these other things, the mind didn't click in and it didn't register that I was reading things dyslexically. It was already under the assumption that they were doing something screwy with their pricing strategy anyway. And then when I saw that and my brain was all dyslexic, the brain simply accepted the dyslexia and went with it. And that's the thing with the benefit of the doubt. I think that's one thing like a lot of people don't realize with the benefit of the doubt, is when people are giving you the benefit of the doubt, they will believe in you or believe in your product or believe in your service even when it doesn't make a lot of sense to them, right? So if I had pulled out that product and it seemed like a very good quality product, if I had already been impressed with the product, then when I had gone to spec it out, I would have given them the benefit of the doubt that no, they're probably not doing something screwy with the price, I'm probably reading it wrong, right? Because that's the thing, if you read something and you read it and it seems absurd, but you figure that you should trust the company, then you think, I'm reading this wrong. If, on the other hand, you've already pulled the product out, you've already taken a look at it, you've already basically seen how much it costs to build, and it's already kind of an extreme price that they're charging simply to assemble this thing, so you're already thinking they're charging a premium just to put this thing together, then when you look at the material and your brain goes all dyslexic, the benefit of the doubt goes away, and so you actually believe your dyslexia, right? And so that's a big issue that I think a lot of people don't realize, especially people that are unsuccessful, is that benefit of the doubt is a huge deal in the real world. That, again, I talk about this a lot, where the human brain tries to take a lot of shortcuts. Again, the brain, by percentage of body mass, burns the most energy in the body. It's like when the brain is thinking, it burns up like 20% of the energy of the body. So it burns up an extreme amount of energy, especially for what it is. And so in order to reduce that energy load, it basically goes into macros, it goes into scripts. Basically, it figures out the simplest way to do something without actually thinking, and it does that. So people get into patterns when they're dealing with people, when they're dealing with products, when they're dealing with services, and so they don't actually look at the person, the product, or the service with new eyes every time they see them. They come up with a story about that person, product, or service, and then they run with that story. That is a good person. So a good person stole $20 from you. You don't start thinking that they're a bad person. You start thinking, oh, they were a good person that made a mistake, right? If a bad person gives you $20 out of the blue, you don't now start thinking that they're a good person. You think they're a bad person but they're somehow trying to scam me by giving me this $20, right? There's this whole thing where it all fits into patterns. And so it's important to understand that when people are going to be dealing with you, going to be dealing with your product and your service and all that kind of stuff, that they're going to be dealing with this whole storyline that has been created even beyond the individual instant that they're actually dealing with you. Like, I remember this back when I was in high school, right? So I was back in high school, and I went off to this DECA convention, so distributive Entrepreneurs Clubs of America. Is that what it is? That sounds a little, but DECA, D-E-C-A. Anyways, went to DECA. I competed in DECA competitions. Back when everybody thought I should be playing football, I was competing in entrepreneur competitions. But anyway, so I went off twice a year, I think it was. We had these state competitions, so I went off to Hagerstown to a state competition, and it was really interesting. So I go into my room, and of course, how everything gets screwed over in high school, you don't get to pick who you're going to be rooming with in one of these competitions. So I go in there, and I get in with the party kids, right? I get in with the rich kids that are just there because their parents want them to do something extracurricular. Yeah, whatever, what are you going to do? And they're doing all the stupid stuff that those type of kids do. And unfortunately, I was in that weird position where, what are you going to do about it? But anyway, so they bring in a girl, and they have all this beer. And it's really interesting, because they have all this beer there, right? I don't know how they got in the beer, but they brought the beer in. We were obviously in high school. We were under 18, much less 21. And so they start drinking beer. And it's really curious, because then they offered me beer. They're like, hey, would you like a beer? And it was interesting, because I said no. It's like, oh, yeah, well, you were a good kid, Eli. Oh, no, it wasn't that I was a good kid. It's not that drinking is bad as kids, honestly. But what it was I had more refined tastes than beer. I was a Boone's Farm man. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. Oh, yeah. Right? And it was really true. Right at that time, when I was 17 years old and I was drinking alcohol, I drank high-quality Boone's Farm. It's so funny to think about. Boone's Farm is like so lightweight as far as alcohol is concerned. It was like 3 or 4 years later when I was over 21, and I actually bought 2 bottles of Boone's Farm just to be nostalgic. And I remember like literally drinking both bottles of Boone's Farm and kind of just burping and being like, well, I remember when half a bottle and I thought I was drunk. And now I can drink 2 bottles and it's like, got any beer anywhere, right? But anyway, so I go there and they have the beer and all this kind of stuff. And I say no to the beer, not because I'm anti-alcohol by any stretch of the imagination, but because I'm anti-beer. Who the hell drinks beer? Beer is disgusting. So I don't drink the beer. Unfortunately, since the dumbasses had brought that girl into the room, girls, always remember this as guys, right? Society doesn't really try to protect guys very much. So if a guy sneaks out of his room, there's a good chance that will be successful. So if a guy sneaks into a girl room, that'll probably work out. See, society is very protective of girls, though. So when a girl sneaks out, there's a good chance that there will be checks and all that kind of stuff by the chaperones. And then when the girl isn't in the room, then all hell breaks loose. So the girl that they snuck in, of course, they went out. The chaperones found out she wasn't in her room, and they go banging around. They come to our room. They find the girl in there. They find the beer. And unfortunately, alcohol, there's a zero tolerance policy. And so we all get kicked home. I think I may have actually had to leave like that night. It's kind of like one of those things with the alcohol policy back then. It was like, you leave immediately. Which I was like, okay, whatever. I forget, maybe it was like the second night. For whatever reason, I don't know why, I really liked the DECA conventions, to be honest with you. So I wasn't like anti-DECA. But I also remember I wasn't overly irritated at the situation either. It was kind of like one of those weird things. I don't know what happened. Because normally I would have been at least irritated. Because I didn't bring the girl in. And I didn't bring the alcohol in, and I was getting kicked out. But for whatever reason, I wasn't irritated. Like I say, maybe it was the second night, and there wasn't much left anyway. There was some reason why I went with the flow on it and didn't really care. But it was really interesting, right? So again, I was 17 years old or whatever. I was drinking alcohol. I drank alcohol. Again, Boone's Farm, but not beer, right? But it was really funny, because then I go back to school, and I'm in lunch, like the next day, and I get called over by the administrators. So there's like the principal and the assistant principal and all that kind of stuff. And it was really amusing. It was really amusing because then the administrators look at me and they say, we really want to give you our heartfelt apology. And I was like, excuse me? And they say, we know what kind of kid you are. We understand that you're not drinking alcohol and all that kind of stuff. We want to just give you a real apology that you had to be brought home because of that incident. We apologize. It's the policy of the school that if there's an alcohol incident, everything, you have to be kicked out immediately. But we want you to know that we know you're not one of those kids, and so we don't look on you that way. And I looked at them and was like, well, thank you very much. And then I walked away and kind of shook my head because it was really funny. Like I say, for me, like there was this impression, there was this benefit of the doubt that I was a good kid, and that I simply got mixed up with a couple of morons that brought beer in, right? That Eli wouldn't drink alcohol. It was just those idiots. Where in reality, what it was I had a more refined taste than beer was concerned, right? And so I just didn't drink it because it wasn't something that suited my taste. But as far as the administration was concerned, I got that benefit of the doubt because I wasn't a hellraiser, I wasn't a hellion, I wasn't breaking rules, I wasn't doing all this stuff, I wasn't pissing off teachers. So they looked at me and they assumed that I was a good kid, and therefore they wanted to know that I was A-okay with them, right? And that's the whole thing to realize when you're dealing with people in life, is that, again, especially like when you're dealing with managers and bosses and teachers and all these people in higher level positions, is that they can't keep track of everybody. See, your mommy and your daddy think you are a special little flower. Aren't you the most amazing, wonderful, special little flower? And so we go out into the world and we think we're special little flowers. The problem is people up in leadership positions, they don't have time to deal with special little flowers. Again, like if you're a boss, you probably have 20 people under you. If you're a higher level manager, like a district manager, you may have 10 or 20 managers under you, and they have 20 employees under them. So basically, you are just a face. For the most part, people cannot comprehend other people as wonderful, beautiful, special little flowers. Basically, they have to do the little script in their brain to basically just assume that is a good person, that is a lazy person, that is a person that is going to lie to me, that person is a thief, that person would never lie to me, that person works too hard, right? And they get these impressions about you in their brain, and then they just go with that even when the situation would make them seem otherwise. So this is an important thing to think about, like when you folks go to work, because unfortunately in life, a lot of the scammers and a lot of the people that fail in life, they always try to cling to rules. They try to cling to rules so hard because they figure if they can cling to rules very hard, then they can get around the system. The rule says, and then they don't understand why things don't work out for them, right? And the reason is because you get a lot of people in life that let's say your kid is sick. Let's take a situation where your kid is sick in the morning. You have two people. And the first person, the kid is sick, and they normally show up 5 to 10 minutes late, almost every single day. Whenever the boss deals with them, the boss always feels like they're almost annoying the employee. There's always issues, there's always something stupid, so on and so forth. So your kid is sick. You don't call into work for whatever reason. You come in 4 hours late, and all of a sudden you're getting disciplined, or you may even have to be worried about getting fired. Right? So you have the situation. So you come in 3 to 4 hours late without giving any notice, and you're about to get fired. And then you have the other person that always comes in 5 or 10 minutes early, always tries to be helpful to the boss, is always smiling, is always going above and beyond, and then they come in 4 hours late. Well, the thing is, remember, how the brain works for people is the person that's normally coming in late, causing issues, all that kind of stuff. Basically, the assumption is that person is screwing around yet again. They screwed around yesterday, they screwed around the day before, they're doing dumb shit. Now they're trying to push my buttons. Now they're trying to see if they can actually not show up for 4 hours and nothing's going to happen to them. So F them, this is the point they're going to get fired, those stupid asses, right? You take the other person, 4 hours late, but always comes in early, blah, blah, blah. They come in 4 hours late, and what is the boss going to be like? oh my golly, are you okay? What happened? Right? Because again, the assumption in the brain is that this is the person that always comes in early, that always tries to go above and beyond, that is always happy and all that kind of stuff. So if you come in 4 hours late, that means there must be a problem. Something severe must have happened. You have the exact same situation, but people, again, are willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. If you look at things like products and services, right? So you take laptop computers, and let's say you take HP. So HP used to be a good company. Do you remember the days when HP was a good company before they bought Compaq? Yeah, HP used to be a gold standard company. I wouldn't buy anything they produce anymore. Especially now that they're like 3 different companies. Anyways, but basically HP used to be a good company, but they're not a good company anymore, right? So you go out there, so anybody who goes out to buy a laptop, when I had the computer repair shop, we had so many problems with HPs, right? We had this whole thing, there was like the 9000 series, where like literally, we had a workflow of dealing with the 9000 series because so many of the motherboards were bad. It was just absolutely horrible, right? So HP, time and time again, all kinds of different laptops came down the pike, and so many of them were pieces of crap. I mean, just pieces of garbage, right? And so again, that is my impression of HP. And so now, no matter what product they put out, I don't care if they put the best thing out. They actually put out a product. It was kind of cool. It was you could use your hands in 3 dimensions to interact with the computer, and somebody was showing it to me. It's like Sprout or something like that. It was actually a cool piece of technology, and they were like, so, would your clients be interested in this? Would you ever be interested in selling it? And I said, hell no. And they looked at the Sprout, and they looked at the technology, and they said, oh, what's wrong with it? It's like, I would never tell anybody about HP in my life. HP is a piece of shit. And here's the thing, that product may in fact be good. That product may be one of the most awesome products to ever exist. But here's the thing, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 3 times. Fool me 20 times. And at that point, I'm just never going to deal with your product again. Where on the other hand, like Lenovo generally puts out very good products. They put high quality things out. Every once in a while they do something stupid. Every once in a while they put out a crappy product. But at the end of the day, I would still suggest people go with Lenovo. A lot of times if they're looking for a PC. Anyway, some people like PCs. Go Mac. But anyways, if we go for a PC, I would still say Lenovo. Why? Because time and time again, they put out very good products. Every once in a while, they put out a piece of crap. Again, my impression of it is that they although they made mistakes, overall they put out good products, and therefore that is going to be my bias. So this is what you have to think about when you're going out there and you're going to do business and you're going to have a career and all that kind of stuff, is what are people's storylines about you? When they look at you, what is the 1-sentence statement that they would say? Is it hardworking, religious family person? Family Z? Is it lazy, conniving, selfish person? Is it, what is the 1 sentence? Because what you'll realize in life is that 1 sentence that people will describe you based off of is how they will treat you, and then that's how the opportunities will come down the pike. Again, you may look at me and you may say, well, you are an egotistical, arrogant, self-confident asshole. You're like, well, look, that's not a good sentence. That's not a good sentence. But again, there actually wasn't bad things in there if you're looking from my standpoint. Because again, what do I want to do in life? I want to go out there and I want to do projects. I want to get to the top of the hill. I want to get things done. So egotistical, arrogant, self-confident asshole. It's not necessarily bad. You didn't say failure. You could put failure in there. You didn't say lazy. You didn't say delusional. Again, right? Arrogant. Arrogant isn't necessarily bad. Delusional is. Delusional is very bad, right? So you really look at it. And so that's one of the things you want to think about in life. And what I would argue is, again, So much of life is so much simpler than people try to make it out to be. Again, the more complicated people can make life seem, the easier it is for them to explain failure. Right? And this is a big thing that I talk about again and again and again. Like I say, when you look at diets, when you look at exercise programs, when you look at self-help, when you look at so many of these programs that are created to make people's lives better, the one thing that you really find about them is they are asininely convoluted and massively prone to failure. Again, you know what I say with exercise and diet and all that, eat better, exercise more. That's it, right? Because you can't fail eating better, exercising more. That's pretty simple. No, I'm not the best example of that right now because I'm so mad. Like when I came back from Thailand, I was like, I'm going to get back to the gym. And then I got sick, and I got allergies, and now we're about to leave on Tuesday. So not the best example for that. But really, that's pretty simple, right? If you think about it, if you say I need to get in shape, and so my plan is to eat better and exercise more, you can't fail with that. You can give up, but you can't fail. But here's the thing, if you give up, you have to take responsibility for giving up. I decided I want to be a lard ass. I decided I want to be a lazy lard ass. Nobody wants to say that, right? But failure sounds better. Oh, I couldn't do it. Well, here's the thing, if your plan is to eat better and exercise more, and somebody looks at you and says, you couldn't eat better and exercise more, right? It's pretty hard to explain that failure, right? On the other hand, if you go for the Atkins diet, or the South Beach diet, or the starch solution, McGregor's thing, or any of this stuff, and you go at it from the get-go, balls out, you're probably going to fail, right? Because again, if you do the Atkins diet, I tried the Atkins diet. I tried the real Atkins diet at one point. I got the book and all that kind of stuff. Oh my God, that is horrible. Again, like when I started the Atkins diet, I was like, this is gonna be awesome. Man, within a week it was horrible. I mean, how much meat and grease are you supposed to stomach? It was just brutal, right? And so if you fail on the Atkins diet, everyone can look at you, oh, well, yeah, look at how hard that is. Going for that regime is so difficult. It's completely understandable that you failed. And you're like, yeah, I tried so hard, but really, what could you expect from me, right? You know, again, if you go like with like the starch solution, right, like my wife and the vegan things, and again, I'm not against it if you move to it, right? Again, if you decide to eat better, and then you realize the starch solution is the way to go, and you slowly move to the starch solution, you'll probably do fine. But again, it's just like you go from eating, steak and eggs and pizza to the starch solution. Again, right? Because again, like I say, with a lot of foods and stuff, you actually get addicted to the foods. Like with salt and grease and caffeine and all this kind of stuff. That's one of the problems with processed foods, legitimately, is that they actually put stuff into the foods to make it addictive. And so when you try to pull yourself off of it, just like if you try to pull yourself off of anything too quickly, you're going to run into a lot of problems. But you don't even know you're addicted to the foods. I mean, that's one of the sad things. Like, at least with caffeine, you can have caffeine addiction or caffeine stuff. With cigarettes, you have addiction. With a lot of drugs, that there's an addiction. So when you try to pull yourself out of it, at least it's there. At least you're going to be going cold turkey, right? The problem with like a lot of these foods, a lot of these things we eat, if you're not eating whole foods, is they inject so much stuff into the food that it actually makes it psychologically addicting, these foods, but you don't even realize it. So again, the problem is, like when you stop smoking and you go through withdrawal, you don't think, oh, well, the problem is that smoking was actually healthy, and now I'm damaging my body by not giving it enough nicotine. I'm sure some smokers out there will try to pawn that off, but everybody knows that's not true. And that's one of the problems, like when you get off of processed foods. Again, when you try to go vegan or vegetarian or any of this stuff, again, I'm not morally for any of that crap, but when you try to go there, a lot of the reasons people have problems is, imagine if you have an addiction to substances, but you don't know you have an addiction to substances. It doesn't even cross your mind. So when you try to take those foods out of your diet, what happens is you're actually addicted to those substances. You start to feel like crap, and then you start to think the reason you feel like crap is not because you're having withdrawal symptoms, but rather you're not getting vitamin fat ass 32. Right? And so that's a problem. But again, it goes back to the whole thing. Like, everybody wants to try to make life so complicated. Again, the more complicated, the more complex they make things, the easier it is to blame things on failure versus blame things because, again, you give up. And so one of the issues you come to in life is everybody tries to make out dealing with people as if people are their own special little flowers. Like, oh, everybody is an individual, unique little snowflake. Which technically is true. But on the aggregate is completely and utterly false. Think about it. Think about your friends. Think about your coworkers. Think about your boss. Think about your subordinates. How much do you actually know about them? So if you're 30 years old, your peers are also 30 years old, which means they have 30 years of life experience. They have wives or husbands or Z's and kids and dogs and parents and grandparents. They have debts, they have drug habits, they have all kinds of stuff. How much of that do you really know about them? And let's be honest, how much of that do you give two shits about? Oh, Eli, I can't. No, you don't. Stop. Because that's what I hate. So every time I talk with people, like, no, Eli, no, you don't. No, you want to say that you care about all these people. You don't give two shits, right? You know, I mean, how much do I know about all these people in my life? I know very little. And I sit there and I talk with them all the time. Like I say, we got these whole heart-to-heart things. And again, even with that, how much do you really know at the end of the day? How much do you really appreciate? Not very much. Basically, you have about a sentence in your head about that person. Again, with your spouse, you may have a whole whopping paragraph in your head. But that's the thing, and you go into routine. So like when I deal with my wife, there are all of these just pre-written routines. Like when we're going to argue about dinner, you know, it's not even like an argument that's actually occurring right now. It's this pre-written routine. I always say this, she always says this, I always say this, she always says this. We open the refrigerator, and based upon the situation in the refrigerator, one person gives up, right? You know, you think, oh, I am having an argument right now. You're not having an argument. You're just running through a script that your brain created a long time ago, right? So what I want you folks to think about is I want you to go out into life, and I want you to start thinking about the one sentence that describes everybody you meet. Go to your boss and think about the one sentence in your brain that forms the pattern for all of your interactions with your boss. Look at your peers. Think about the one sentence in your brain that runs the script for how you interact with them. Look at your subordinates. Think about the one script. What is the sentence I have for this person? And what is the sentence I have for this person? And what is the sentence I have with this person, right? And the first thing that I want you to think about, especially with that sentence, is make sure that whatever sentence you have for them actually relates to them. And again, I don't get into the whole moral, ethical thing, so I have to be a little careful here when I talk about women and minorities and skin color and all that. It's not even really minorities. But like when you look at something and you say egotistical, arrogant white man, that's where you have to be a little careful. Anytime because as soon as you put white's kind of like a pointer, right? Towards a whole bunch of other things, right? So if you think white person, there's all these assumptions you have about white people. If you think of a black person, you have all these assumptions about black people. If you say woman, you have all these assumptions about women. If you say Z, there's all these assumptions about. And so you can lump a lot of things onto a person that literally has nothing to do with them, right? Simply by doing that. It would be a class, I suppose. If you're doing it in programming languages, I guess they would be a class. White person class equals whatever, douche and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing is think about the sentence that you have for those people. And anything that is more than like a word or anything that associates to a lot of other stuff, make sure you rip that out. So again, you can think of me as an egotistical, arrogant, self-confident asshole. But again, as soon as you start putting white in there, as soon as you start putting man in there, as soon as two of you put Jew in there for some reason, I'm not a Jew. Again, I don't have anything against Jews. I don't even want to get into the argument about Jews because it shouldn't even come up. I'm not Jewish, but right? You know what I'm saying? Like, take all that kind of stuff out. But again, right? And so what I want you to do is strip out all that extraneous stuff because that really isn't them. That's all these other things you put on them. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go out and find the people that you want to be like when you grow up. So even if you're 30, or even if you're 40, or even if you're 50, I want you to look. Whether it's a CEO that you look up to, whether it's a senior administrator that you look up to, oh, maybe he's a janitor. Maybe you're CEO and you're like, damn, man, I really want to be a janitor. Right? Whoever it is. And then I want you to think about the sentence that you associate with them. And then I want you to start thinking about how you can change your story to start matching that sentence. Because again, like I say, for me, like when I say, egotistical, arrogant, self-confident asshole, like people might be like, oh, yeah. See, I don't have a problem with that. Because if I look at all of the people that I look up to, all the people that I would want to be my mentors or my advisors, those are actually the prominent features. Because again, for somebody like me, this comes up a lot with people like, oh, you need to take Eli down a peg. But remember, I am recreating myself and I am trying new things on a very extreme rate, right? All the fucking time. Like as soon as I figure out what works, I go on to the next thing. Again, like a lot of people don't understand with the whole Eli the computer guy thing. Probably one of my biggest problems with Eli the computer guy, other than a whole bunch of other stuff, is that I understand how it works. So I'm good. You're like, what? See, that's the thing. Like most people, you want to do all this work and figure everything out and then start milking that crap, for the rest of your life. With me, I just want to figure out how it works. And then once I figure out how it works, then I'll go on to the next thing. See, the thing that I like about Fail Normal, what I like about this is a job that I can do, but then I can go and explore other things. So like if I get interested in militias, I can go and I can like wander around with militias for a while and then talk about it and hopefully not get shot. Or if I get interested in gurus, which I am interested in gurus, like once we get back in the fall, I'm going to start schmoozing with gurus and then figure that out. So the nice thing I like about Fail Normal is it allows me to go and explore and do all this kind of wacky shit. And then simply come back here and kind of report in for an hour a day, right? But the thing is, what you have to realize, like egotistical, arrogant, self-confident, all that, you may see that as bad things. But again, when you are constantly walking into new environments where people don't know who the hell you are, who don't know why they should care, and you need to interact with them, guess what? Egotistical, arrogant, self-confident, even being a bit of an asshole, that ain't a bad thing. The people that I look up to, they can walk into a room where nobody knows who the hell they are. They don't have a quote unquote right to be there. And they will get respect walking in that room. Because people look at it and go, that was one egotistical, arrogant, self-confident asshole. Must have a reason for being here. Right. It's not a bad thing. And so that's what I want you folks to be thinking about. Is like, how do you present yourself? When you walk into a room, are you when people look at you, do they see self-confidence or do they see meek? Right? And that's a problem. That's a problem, right? So if you walk into a room and let's say you want to be a senior system administrator, that is what you want to do in your life, right? But when you walk into a room, people's sentence about you is meek. I'm not going to hand the control over my network to somebody who's meek. Because here's the thing, if you're a senior level administrator, again, Sometimes it's all sunshine and cotton candy and fairy dust, but a lot of the times it is balls out nasty. Again, you get a couple of geeks on a real project where real money and real stuff is on the line, and it can be brutal. Absolutely and utterly brutal, right? So, if you walk in and people consider you meek, then they're not going to give you a leadership position. They're not going to give you a management position. You're not going to get ahead, at least in that place, because again, that's their bias towards you. That's their, it's not really the benefit of the doubt, but it's a bias. That's a meek person. So I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt to be a leader. Because again, what you have to realize from like leadership positions is if they're going to be promoting somebody or hiring somebody, they have 5 people to select. You look at it from, I'm going for this position. They look at it of, I have 5 or 10 people going for this position. So I am going to give the benefit of the doubt to the person that I think I'm most likely to do this. So the person that shows up. So that's where like a lot of people say, like, well, once I get this next position or once I get this job, then I will show up early. This is where a lot of people get screwed up in life. They say, once I make $60,000 a year, I will be more than happy to show up 10 minutes early. But here's the thing. I don't want to give a job worth $60,000 a year to somebody who's not showing up 10 minutes early, right? And so that's what I want you to think about, is what is the sentence that describes you? And then look at the people that you want to be and think about the sentence that describes them, right? Again, if you want to be a healthcare worker, there's going to be a sentence, and it's not going to be egotistical, arrogant, self-confident asshole, right? I would suck in healthcare. You do not want me in healthcare. It's just not going to be. It's just not going to be. Nobody's going to be happy with that, right? But that's the thing. So if you want to go into healthcare, look at the people that are successful. Think about what sentence, and then form that sentence around you, and then conform yourself to the sentence. If you want to be a lawyer, look at that one sentence, right? If you want to be a content creator, think about that one sentence. Because that's the thing. The more closely people associate that sentence that they assign to you with whatever it is that you're trying to go for in the world, the more likely it is that you will actually be able to obtain it. Right? Again, if, I don't know, like, if you're trying to move ahead in the workplace, and again, like I say, let's say a CMO, a Chief Marketing Officer job becomes available, and you are considered somebody that is good with people, there's a good chance you'll get pushed in that position, right? But that's what you have to understand, is everybody, again, that's the whole thing, is people assign a sentence to you, to your service, to your company, to your product, and then that's basically how they deal with your product. Because again, they have so many options out there. Is it right? Is it moral or ethical of me to consider HP laptops to be complete pieces of shit? I would not use an HP laptop to use a paperweight. And some people are like, oh, but Eli. But here's the thing, right? Because the world isn't just HP laptops. I can choose HP, or I can choose Dell, or I can choose Lenovo, or I can choose Asus. Asus is pretty crappy too. Or I can choose Acer, or I can choose Toshiba, right? So there's no reason for me to go back and change that opinion of the HP. They are pieces of garbage, therefore I will never buy one again, and I'll always consider them pieces of garbage, right? Again, like I say, that's when you go for that job interview, or you go for that promotion or whatever. Again, there's that idea that people have of, oh, when I get the promotion, when I get that job, when I get the position, then I will start going above and beyond. Then I'll start being nicer. Then I'll show up early. Then I won't take off sick days. But again, if I'm looking to put somebody into that position, I've got 5 people to choose from. So I'm going to go with the person with the benefit of the doubt. Oh, that person always shows. But the thing is, even with benefit of the doubt, it sometimes screws up. Again, one of the best employees I ever had. Great employee. Absolutely awesome employee that lost his fucking mind. Oh, so miserable. It's like, it was just so amazing. Like, half of his tenure with me was amazing. Half of his tenure with me was just like, oh my golly, this is somebody I could be a business partner with. And half his tenure with me was him just losing his fucking mind. So again, even with the benefit of the doubt, you're not always right. But again, for leadership, is you have to make a decision. I think that's one thing, like a lot of a lot of people that aren't in decision-making positions don't realize is the decision maker has to make a decision, right? If a manager spot is open, somebody has to go into that. It's not like they can wait around. And they have a lot of other things to deal with, right? So again, if you're a manager for a company, you have hiring issues to deal with, you have logistics issues to deal with, you have consumer issues, you got a lot of stuff to deal with. So this is one thing. And so basically you're going to do the simplest thing possible. Right? So that is my thought today for the whole thing with the benefit of the doubt. Because again, like I say, I will completely say with IX systems, one, I still would not buy an IX Systems FreeNAS Mini XL. I would use FreeNAS, and I would buy their enterprise equipment if I needed it. But that thing I would not buy. But again, when I went to look at that page, and when I was looking at the hard drives, what I realized there was basically I had already set my opinion of that FreeNAS server. The opinion of that FreeNAS server, because I had already done the research on it. It's not like I just pulled it out. I'd already pulled it out and went, this doesn't feel nice. And then I cracked it open and found out it was all off-the-shelf components. And then I realized they were charging somewhere between, like I say, $500 to $800 to maybe $900, literally as an assembly fee. So that was already in my head when I went to look at the hard drives. And again, even though I was completely dyslexic when I looked at the hard drives. One of the reasons I was dyslexic with the hard drives is I had already come to the conclusion about the server, and basically there was no benefit of the doubt left. It wasn't like, this seems absurd, why am I seeing this wrong? It is, this is absurd, and it's yet another absurdity on top of this weird ass thing that they sent me. And then again, like I say, I get a little irritated when companies send me products that I figure that I'm going to lambast, because it's almost just like insulting for me. Because again, like I say, I am like a tech professional, and so like it's like when you send me, because there's a thing like when you do reviews, like a lot of people don't understand this when you do reviews, because I'm like one of the snarkiest people out there with a lot of these reviews. And the thing with reviews is you always have to be honest. But, you know, you don't want to be horrible. You don't want to be horrible. And you don't want to be evilly snarky. You know, and so that's when you get a product in your hand. The whole idea, like when I do a review, it's kind of one of those things, it should be situational, right? You know, it's good for some things, it's not good for others. Again, like if you were going to go out and buy a Drobo, what I would say, Drobo is a NAS solution, network attached storage solution. And so I own a Drobo. And so it would be like, if you want the ability to very easily increase the storage volume, Drobos are great. If you need high throughput, they suck. Right? So there's a good reason to buy one. Again, that's why I have the Drobo. There's a bad reason to buy one. Synology. Synology can be a little pricey. They can be a little complicated. But if you want this whole ecosystem, again, you can create high availability clusters very easily. You can add expansion storage very easily. So when you buy a Synology, it's almost like they're almost like the Apple of like the NAS world, where you can add all this stuff and you can do things relatively easily. So there are some downsides to it, but it's very easy to expand. So again, downside. And so that's when I looked at this Mini XL. It was just like I don't see the point. Again, as an empty box, like I don't understand the situation here. Like I can make up a reason for the situation, right? I think when I did the review, that's what I said. Is I said, well, if you're in an enterprise environment and you're going to deploy 20 of these, I guess I would buy them. That's basically what I said. Which, that is like the only situation I would ever use it for. Basically, essentially, the idea is you're already using FreeNAS as your standardized NAS solution. And for some reason, you need 20 or 30 NAS servers, like in a month. Then, fine, go buy it. But it's like, how many people actually need to do that? Right, and even if they do need to deploy 30 NAS servers in a month, how many have really standardized on free? It's like, and so that's why I get frustrated with some of these things, like with that kind of thing. It's like, why do you send me a product that I just, as an IT professional, there's no way in hell, there's no way, I just don't get it. But anyways, so yeah, that review went up today. Like I said, I was just like, it was 34 minutes of me going, I like FreeNAS. Right? I don't know why the hell they produced this thing. This is an example of somebody not saying no to the CEO. The CEO says, I think we should have a NAS server at a $1,500 price point. And nobody said no. It was like, what is this thing? It gives IX Systems a bad name, to be honest with you. It really does, because I mean, that's what makes me question, like, even their enterprise stuff. And again, like I say, that whole benefit of the doubt, like when they sent me the FreeNAS server, the benefit of the doubt was I knew I liked FreeNAS, and I knew their enterprise equipment made sense. So when they sent me this, the benefit of the doubt was it was going to be a really good product. Like that was my assumption, my bias was that it was going to be a really good product. Now I get this thing, and again, very high build cost, no creativity whatsoever, no innovation whatsoever, all off-the-shelf parts. And now for me, that now benefited, and now makes, if you do have to buy enterprise-grade equipment, I'm not going to say I'm going to trust IX Systems from day one. They can get the trust back. But it's not like I'm going to say, absolutely, definitely buy IX Systems. I might very well say, buy a Dell and throw FreeNAS on. Again, FreeNAS is good. Just not sure why I buy these other people's hardware. Right? Because again, I mean, that's the thing. Like if it's completely off-the-shelf components for their mini NAS thing, then like I say, their enterprise-grade equipment. You know, if all it is off-the-shelf stuff, then you think, well, if I go with Dell or Lenovo servers or something like that, maybe I can get something more significant than off-the-shelf parts. Right? But that's my thought, because that's what I looked at too. Because that thing was $1,500, and I actually spec'd out an 8-bay, 32 gig ECC RAM. Quad-core Xeon 3.4 gigahertz processor, and so instead of an Atom processor, it's a Xeon processor, and that came out to $1,400. So, but anyways, now I'm just bitching about IX Systems. I'm so frustrated doing that review. I was just looking at that thing like, people are like, well, why did you do the review? Well, one of the reasons I did the review is, again, when people send you products, you should do a review, unless you really can't do a review. And so since I realized that they weren't gouging you on the hard drives, it wasn't absurd. It's not like it's an absurd product anymore. It's definitely not what I would want to buy. So, put the product out there. What are you going to do? So it was kind of funny though. It's funny though. Somebody left this snarky comment, because one of the things when I do reviews of IT equipment is I never do performance benchmarking, because it doesn't make sense, right? Because what people don't understand about IT equipment is, again, it's all situation. It's situational. It's all what environment you put it in, right? So when Linus Tech Tips does benchmarking, or MKBD or whatever does benchmarking, somebody else does benchmarking, they benchmark playing a video game on the computer. So that is a task that everybody could do on that computer, so it's something very easy to benchmark. Right? Now, the problem is, with IT equipment, is you don't know what situation it's going into. So with the NAS server, you don't know, is it going to be 100 people using that server to share small files? Because it will perform in that situation a specific way, because you have to think about there's different network connections, there's a size of the data transfer per network connection, there's a load on the hard drives, it'll work a certain way. If you have one person who's editing video files on it, it will act a certain way. If you have 20 computers all using it as the target for their backups, it will run a certain way. And so if you just do performance on it, what performance are you actually doing? Are you doing performance of 100 concurrent users all pushing or pulling 100 meg files? Because if you benchmark that, it is basically irrelevant for the one person dealing with 4K videos. So anyways, all right. So I told him basically it's irrelevant for doing IT equipment for the most part. Again, like I say, if you have a special environment, if you know the environment, and that's the thing, if you're going to be putting equipment into environment, you should benchmark equipment in your environment. So you should get a Synology, and you should get and whatever, right? You put those into your environment, then you benchmark the hell out of those. You figure out which works best in your environment. That's all, right? And so it was really funny. This person came back and was like, well, since you received this thing, you should just do a benchmark for the environment that you're putting it into. However you're using it, you should benchmark it. And it was so horrible, because I was just looking at the comment. I'm like, It's already back in the box, to be honest. It's already back in the box, in the storage area, literally waiting the designated month, just so I make sure IX Systems doesn't ask for it back, before I give it to the Baltimore Robotics Center. So literally, if I'm benchmarking it, it does very well. It has 100% completion rate of being a paperweight. It is an amazing, amazing paper. Let me tell you, I put a piece of paper under it, and that piece of paper hasn't moved a millimeter since I did. So that's a benchmark. It was so funny with that. They're like, tell us how you're using it. I'm like, I'm not using it. I'm using my Drobo. I'm using my Synology. I'm using AWS Glacier. I'm not using that. I don't know, that is so small. Because they gave me 8 gigs of drives. They gave me 8 1-gig drives, and so with the ZFS, the fault tolerance, that comes down to either 6 or 7 gigs of usable storage, and it's like, that's like one hard drive. Right now, I'm increasing the size. That's what I like with my Drobo. So I have a Drobo. If you haven't looked at Drobo, take a look at Drobo. Again, throughput on Drobo is crap. Throughput on Drobo is not amazing. Not amazing, but it's great for storage. Because what I like about Drobo is it has this thing called Beyond RAID. And so what Beyond RAID means is, so I have a 5-bay desktop Drobo. It's the one with the SSD accelerator. Thunderbolt port plugs into my Mac. But what you do is with Beyond RAID, I set it for dual disk redundancy, so I can have 2 disks fail out of that 5 and everything will be okay. But the cool part with it is there's no like real configuration. Like the only configuration you do is how bright you want the lights, and how many disk fault tolerance you want. Other than that, it just does its thing, right? And so what's really cool is, so I had 5 2-terabyte drives in there, and so I ate up all that space. And so what I'm doing now is you simply pop out one of the 2-terabyte drives, plug in a new 6-terabyte drive, and it automatically recreates the disk volume with 2 disk redundancy. So I've done that with like 4 drives so far, and so that's what's really cool with Drobo. So you pop out one drive, you plug in the new drive, and you wait like 10 hours for it to get finished. You pop out another drive, you plug in new, and so that's really cool. So anybody that does like video editing, I really suggest you take a look at Drobo, because it's a very easy way to be able to expand your volume, your storage volume, without having to deal with a lot of wacky crap. You don't have to worry about like screwing up a Linux command or screwing up ZFS or anything like that. You just pop out a drive, you plug in the new one. The other cool thing with Drobo, and that's one of the reasons I bought this one, is if you upgrade, I haven't done this yet, but the idea is if you upgrade, you can actually take your drives out of your Drobo, plug them into a new Drobo, and your volume stays intact. So like if I wanted to take my 5 drives and put it into like an 8-bay Drobo, or this Drobo is like 1.5 years, 2 years old now, I wanted to buy a new Drobo, I could just pull those drives out, plug them into the new one, and they should come online no problem. So that's why I like Drobo. Drobo is very good that way, and that's what I've been playing with for the last day or so, increasing the volume on there, since all my video files, all these video files are like huge. What are they? Something like 15 to 20 gigs. Now that I'm doing these talking videos, I may take these down to 30p. So right now I'm still doing it at 60p, 1080 at 60 frames per second, and I may take it down to 30 frames per second, because that'll reduce the volume, the size of these video files by half. So that should be useful. So anyways, those are the thoughts for the day. I see we're about the 58-minute mark. So I always have to give you folks that good hour. Again, all those people, Eli, why don't you do them for 10 minutes? Because that's not how I roll. That's not how I roll. That's not how I get my nice 14, 15-minute average view time. Again, these are supposed to be like talk radio shows. That is the idea. That is the idea. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. In a year may be going great, or not. But yeah, so this video actually won't be published tomorrow. So this video won't be published till Monday. So that is what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is get a backlog of these videos. So like I say, even while I'm traveling, they will still roll out. So my idea is, so I'll publish Monday through Friday. So this is Friday. So I should get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, do videos, and that'll give me a nice 3-day backlog so that while we're traveling, even if I'm not able to upload videos during the week, I can still publish the videos. Because what I can do is with YouTube, once you get over like 1,000 subscribers or whatever, a long time ago, basically you can schedule the publishing. So what I can do is I can upload the video and then say, publish it, like even like while I'm driving. So basically that's what I do, is every night I upload the video and then say to publish it at 8 o'clock in the morning. So with this, I'll upload it and say to publish it at Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that'll be a good thing. That's one thing for any new content creators. Just so you know, I've decided to go on this whole schedule thing because it makes life a lot easier. So I schedule my videos to go whenever they get published. They always get published at 8 o'clock in the morning. So Fail Normal gets published at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. Eli Computer Guy Live gets published at 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Eli, the Computer Guy, will get published 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever day I decide that to get published. But what I found, one of the things I like with the scheduled publishing is it makes sure that all the video versions have been encoding. All the encoded versions. So whenever you upload a file to YouTube, they do this thing called multi-bitrate switching. And what that means is, depending on your bandwidth, they choose the video file of the size that will get to you. So if you have a 20 gig video file, you need a lot of bandwidth to watch that, versus if you have a 300. So what they do, and that's where you'll see when you upload a video, they'll encode it to a 144p version and a 340p version, like a 440p version, a 720p version, an 1880 version, and a 21 whatever version, and a 4K version. So one of the problems is you upload a video and then you publish it. As soon as you're allowed to publish it, only a couple of those versions, or maybe even one, will be available. Usually only like the 360 will be available. So you get a lot of complaints. People say, Eli, why are you uploading crap videos now? And so what I found is, if you schedule it, what's nice is, so I'll upload this, again, right after I get done. And then since I have 12 hours with a 35 meg per connect upload speed, it uploads in less than an hour. And so that gives it like 10 hours to encode. So that means when it gets published at 8 o'clock in the morning, all the versions are there, right? So that's just a little tip for any wannabe content creators out there. Come up with a scheduling plan. Just because, again, like I say, for the encoding version. I know a lot of people like schedule publishing. They say it's better for views and all that. I'm not a huge fan of that. Again, I've started scheduling just because now I pre-create content. So like with Eli Computer Guy Live, the question and answer channel, I'll do like 6 videos in a day and then have them published over 2 weeks. So that's why I schedule that. But honestly, when I was just putting out content willy-nilly, I didn't really think the scheduling thing really made that much of a difference. So I don't know. That's a thought. I do the scheduling thing mainly because I pre-do content. And again, like I say, for this stuff, if I published it at night, you get it at 360p or whatever. So if I publish it in the morning, you always get a nice, crystal clear version. So anyways, with that, I think my wife and I are going out for sushi tonight. So I need to put on some new clothes because I am a bit wet. I wasn't completely in the rain, but the area that I'm in right here wasn't very dry either. So with that, we'll call it a day, and I'll see you folks tomorrow. Well, I'll see you folks, for me, my tomorrow, and for you, I guess for you. See, like I said, that's the whole thing, like with YouTube, like time. I'm really telling you, like if you really want to become like the next billionaire, there's something to do with time. Time is going to be huge. Like changing perception of time. And I know how absurd that sounds. Kyle Morgan, it's all on you. Kyle Morgan, when you make your $1 billion off of perception of time, I just want my 1%. 1% of time. Yeah, I'll take $10 million. Yeah. When you create your $1 billion company off of time perception, I just want 10 million. But there's something there, I'm telling you. Like, I know it sounds really absurd, but everything seems absurd until somebody comes out with a stupid product. You're like, oh, that's obvious. Right? But I'm telling you, the perception of time. There is really something with that. Because I will see you tomorrow, but that tomorrow isn't till 3 days from now. And so we'll both see each other tomorrow, but the tomorrow, you know what I'm saying there? There's something there. There's a $1 billion company and a perception of time. I don't know where the $1 billion comes from. I don't know the product either. But perception of time. I'm telling you, I bet you in this century, we change our perception of time. Because again, you think about things like being static. You think of like time is time. But time isn't time. Time is a human construct. Like how we look at time is literally a human construction. And if it's a human construction, that means it can be changed. And if you're the one that controls the change of something as fundamental as time, there's got to be $1 billion in there, right? Anyways, no. People are like, what the hell? Anyways, that's where my mind goes. I don't know. You folks are playing PlayStation 4s. I'm thinking about the perception of time. Yeah, anyways. With that, we will call it a day, and I'll see you folks, whatever perceptive version of tomorrow it is.